The new footbridge. It springs across the river like a slice of rainbow, arched as a vertebrate, golden in the sunlight. And the mayor cuts the ribbon. The councillors are ready, and they all march together, march across the Guadiaro. Is it not a great idea, a bridge so light and springy, the laminated timbers so pretty and so buoyant? The abutments are substantial, the footings thick and massive, and the bridge rests lightly on its ledges. The rain fell heavy in the Guadiaro catchment. Red with mud the river rose, covering the footings, and the river surged and rose again, thrusting the abutments, and again the turbid river rose, tearing at the handrails. Who could imagine the buoyancy of timber? Who would consider the drag loads on the structure? Who did the sums on the piddling little brackets, the tension, the shear, the bending and the torsion? The goats and the sheep retreated to the hilltops, watched as the racing spate tore the banks asunder, watched as the carcasses were tumbled down the valley, watched as the pretty footbridge wrenched itself to pieces. Where will it end, the bridge, and what the hell can stop it? Smashing through the gorges, crunching on the boulders, tossing under viaducts and swept across the weir, the stepping stones, past long abandoned piggeries until it crashes, snags against the old bridge. Snags and floats and traps the trunks of willow trees, of splintered, fractured alamos and olive brash and figs and oleander torn from sodden banks. It rises like a floating dam, the water flooding over terraces, creeping up the door frames, sluicing through the sockets and the fuse box, lifting tables, chairs, cupboards, sofas floating in a tangle to the ceiling, twisting shutters from their pintle hinges, toilet doors, unhanging pictures, prints, guitars from hooks, cushions, books from shelves, maps and guides from folders, useless telephone directories, magazines, a grim confetti, paper porridge slopping in the slimy flow. There's no transparency, just thick brown oxtail, rich in clay, washed from the groves of olives. Ploughed lands, hillsides scarified and naked. Quietly it starts to settle, thick and smeary. Now the waters reach the old bridge deck, crushing foliage up against the chain-link handrail. Abruptly the bridge gives way, the concrete pier collapses, prizing its footing from the riverbed. 100,000 tons of water make a charge for freedom down the valley, tearing the gable from the house below, scattering roof tiles. From the broken windows of the flooded houses, water spews. The elephant in the room is not an elephant, but a sturdy four-squared table, still on its legs, but squint, offset from its station. The William Morris table cover is still in place, and on its surface is a pale wood fruit bowl, sycamore I think, which must have floated to the ceiling, settling back to its position as the tide went out. So that's all right. Except if you try to shift it, all the legs fall off. They're loose. The tenons have escaped, unglued, and now the sturdy table stands unstable like a drunken elephant, ready to slump into an elephant heap if someone should unkindly give a shove. Arbutus. In the northeast corner, where the strawberry tree should be, and the black cap makes his presence felt each spring, now stands a scarecrow, tall and menacing, her figure scrawny, arms outstretched, her hair struel-petered into straw-pale bunches, and her waist cinched in with penitential briars, brambles, and her skirt bedecked with twisted vinca bursting into flower around her crinoline. As in the fairy tale, I free her from barbarous lashings, circling around her, snipping and tearing at prickles and barbs, each garlanded with hanks of withered grass and bunches of ripped-up roots and wild asparagus. What I uncover is the armature the angry river raped, the slender bones, the delicate ligatures intact. I help her to her feet, steady her up with smelling salts and foliar feed, and tie in stakes to give her back support. Lenguas de gato. Lenguas de gato, they're little Spanish pastries with lots of flaked almond involved and a little smear of chocolate and sugar dusting on top. I wonder, shall I see once more the turtles paddling up the reconfigured Guadiaro, hauling out like soup plates on the unfamiliar rocks, to stew their bodies in the summer heat, or hear the Chetty's warbler sing long afternoons from his favourite cable, reinstated to the house. The nightingale, I wonder will she nest again in the papyrus by the terrace, or the flycatcher knit and pearl the air beneath the eaves. Too soon the mare's tails thrust their spikes, competitive through mud and clay, racing the grasses to the brilliant light of spring. The trees, I think, will cope, or so I hope. But please remind me, I must free the pear tree from its stranglement, garroted in its flood-swept quince entanglement. And will we feel again the passage of the Talgo train, the early morning rumble of the Algeciras freight boring its heavy passage to the docks? I long to hear the kettle's gargled note, the morning tea, the crumbling cat's tongue pastry, dissolving, sugar dusting in the throat.